Hello and welcome to Drive-In Double Feature. I'm Nathan.
I'm Ryan.
And this is the show where we talk about two B movies every Tuesday and Thursday. Guess what? This week is a themed week, same as last week. We're going to be talking about Chuck Norris movies. We got two Chuck Norris movies ahead of us. Yeah, and our movie today is Firewalker from 1986. Kind of like a action adventure Indiana Jones type movie. We're doing another one, another one of those.
Yes.
But since it is a themed week, let's talk Chuck Norris. What's your experience with Chuck Norris?
I don't have much of an experience with Chuck Norris. I really
Same here,
don't.
Actually.
I'm aware of all the memes, the Chuck Norris facts, where it's like Chuck Norris is this superhuman being where he's able to achieve these godlike achievements. So
yeah,
I'm aware of all that stuff. The thing I remember seeing him in a Bruce Lee movie called Return of the Dragon, where he actually fights Bruce Lee. There's that one. There's a scene in Dodgeball where he gives the thumbs up.
Yeah, that's that might have been the only movie I'd seen from Chuck Norris for the longest time.
I never watched Walker, Texas Ranger, but I did see all the clips that would be played on Conan, which were outrageous, where it's just this show that these absolutely insane things would happen into this TV show.
No, I've had experience with Walker, Texas Ranger, just like being in the background whenever I would go to my great grandparents' place for Christmas. They would have a Walker, Texas Ranger playing in the background.
Wow.
Yeah, kind of a weird experience. But yeah, I mean, I don't have a lot of Chuck Norris experience. I've seen A Force of One, which is kind of his breakthrough movie. I didn't really like it at the time. But yeah, I will say this week, I feel like I've at least gained a little more appreciation for him, more than just those memes that were running rampant for a long time. But
is it appreciation you have?
Maybe not with this one. So Firewalker is Canon Films. We're back at Canon Films, right? What I find so weird about this movie, I might have liked this more if we had not just done King Solomon's Mines. This is same director too. It's the return of J. Lee Thompson, and they just redo that movie with a less charming cast.
It's so unfortunate because they really are trying to do something kind of somewhat comedic, but honestly, I really didn't care about a lot of these characters. And Chuck Norris, he's a phenomenal fighter. I'm sure he can do fight choreography well, but him playing like a charming, charismatic, like sarcastic individual, that is not his strong suit at all.
Yeah. That's like what's so like a little sad about it, because I think Lou Gossett Jr. is fine in this, but he doesn't do a good job of playing off of Chuck Norris, because I just don't think Chuck Norris knows how to do it. Because I guess he talked to Cannon and really wanted to break into comedy. I guess he wanted to do something a little bit different. So he went to Menachem Golan and he was like, "Hey, Chuck, you can't do comedy." But they gave it to him anyway. And yeah, it's just he doesn't play that well enough throughout most of this movie. There's maybe a few funny jokes, but I think that's more writing than anything. There's one that made me laugh because this all takes place like in like Central America. And there's a guy talking in Spanish and calls his mom a pig and his dad a dog. And then Chuck Norris goes, well, because it's being translated, Chuck Norris is like, "What do you say about my sister?" "Nothing." And he's like, "Whatever. I don't care then." I thought that was a funny joke. There's like a couple of like good bits, but overall, just doesn't do it.
Yeah. I mean, there's some really goofy jokes in there. And so like one gag in there is that Chuck Norris cannot fire a gun to save his life.
Yeah.
But he can throw like a knife, like he's like exactly on target. So, I mean, like, okay, I've fired a gun before. I mean, I'm not a marksman or anything like that, but the guy that he was trying to shoot at was like, I don't know, probably like 20 feet away, 10 feet away, not very far. I mean, basically if you just point straight, you would have hit a target. and he can't shoot the guy. It's just the bullets going all around, all over the place. And Lou Gossett Jr. just takes the gun from him. He's like, "Give me that," and just shoots the guy in cold blood. And and also too, in that same scene when it's like this, it's a native that shows up, and he's got like war paint on and these like feathers, and Chuck Norris is like, "What the hell is that?" And Lou Gossett Jr. is like, "I don't know, but he's trying to kill us or what." And I'm like, "It's a person. Like, it's not a monster."
Well, they explain it like as a monster. It's actually really, really racist. Because like the kind of like the Sharon Stone of this movie, she's the one who's like, "Hey, I have this map. Let's go find this treasure." And she also has visions, though. And I guess she has a vision of a red cyclops. And what that means is a Native American wearing an eye patch. And I was like, that's horrible. Why would you do that?
Well, when she said that, because I mean, they didn't really say that this movie was going to be like Native American ties to it. It was really early in it. She said, "Oh yeah, I've had visions of a red cyclops." So I literally thought it was going to be like a red cyclops monster.
Yeah.
But it was a guy with an eye patch, and they're like, so I didn't make any sense. That was so stupid.
Yeah, I thought that was just like a dumb like thing. There's also a weird break in this movie. So like after like all of this exploring, getting caught by natives, they do get caught, and then John Rhys Davies shows up, just like King Solomon's Mines. He's just back. I guess any action adventure movie he was a part of. And the movie takes like a 15-minute break where it becomes like a hangout movie with him. Like him and Chuck Norris just like chill for a little bit.
That scene went on so long. And, usually when you have scenes like that in a movie, it's just, it'll be like a couple, it'll be like, maybe a couple minutes. Like they're like, "Oh, hey, how's it going, buddy?" And then they'll talk about one of their memories. And then he would have just given them the car and sent them off. But it goes on for like 15, 20 minutes. And they're hanging out. They're throwing knives, having a good laugh, drinking and all that. And just went on way too long. And again, I don't know what the hell was that accent like John Rhys Davies was even doing.
I don't know. It sounded British, but not really. I don't know.
Because at first I thought it was Australian, and then all of a sudden he would have like these weird Southern twangs, like "Hey, how you boys doing?" What? Like, it didn't make any sense to me. And again, this is the only scene John Rhys Davies is in, so he doesn't play a major part. So again, why is this scene going on for so long? And it's just one of their old war buddies. And that's the other thing too. They don't explain how Chuck Norris and Lou Gossett Jr. are friends in this movie. They're getting chased by a completely other irrelevant villain who doesn't show up throughout almost the entire movie, and they get tied up, and you're supposed to just accept that they're friends.
Yeah, no, that's because even after that scene, they're like, "Oh, yeah, how many expeditions have we been on?" And like successful expeditions, and it's like, "Oh, 3 out of like 40 something." So you're just supposed to be like, "Oh, they're best buds," even though they just bicker the whole time, and they like know how to push each other's buttons. Because Chuck Norris, I guess Lou Gossett Jr. hates being called a sissy, so like multiple times throughout the movie, Chuck Norris will call him a sissy, and that like sets him off. I love how Chuck Norris says it too. In this one scene, he goes, "You're a daggum sissy." Like I was like, what?
Yeah, that's his. That's the old Texas Ranger coming out. He hadn't been a Texas Ranger just yet.
Yeah, he was almost there. I mean, this is a part of the reason Cannon would fail anyway. He would lose out on the Cannon because I guess this made money, but not enough.
Yeah, but so you're saying like other lines, other stuff you thought was funny. There was 2 that got like a chuckle out of me. So the woman, when they show up at this really seedy looking bar where she meets Chuck Norris, and she tells the bartender, can I have a wine? Do you have a wine list that I can see? And And the guy's like, don't worry, I haven't memorized red or white.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty good.
That got a chuckle out of me.
Mm-hmm.
There's another scene too where when they're in one of the temples, they find this sacred knife, which becomes like a really important plot point. And this guy has got the woman held hostage, and they're at the edge of a cliff. And Chuck Norris like pulls out the knife like he's going to throw it, and the guy looks at the knife. He screams and jumps off the cliff. He's like, I didn't tell him to jump.
Yeah.
And so the guy just kills himself after seeing this knife.
Yeah. I thought that was a good bit. That got a laugh out of me. There's like one like slightly comical scene. Maybe you can tell me. I felt like a deja vu the whole time I watched this scene. So there's a scene where Chuck Norris, our leading lady, and Lou Gossett, they're dressed up as like a nun and two priests. And then they have to pretend to be priests and like bless a dead body and stuff. And I felt like I had seen this before in another movie. And I don't know what it was, but the whole time I was like, I know this bit. This is like some weird joke I've definitely seen before.
I know what you mean, but I can't tell you which one. I can't pinpoint it either, but I definitely have seen something like this before. It may have been like in a sitcom even or something.
Probably, yeah. Yeah, it just, that scene went on for way too long for what's kind of a funny scene, because like the payoff is like, oh, he's actually alive. The priest Chuck Norris saved his life, brought him back to life, and they get out scot-free.
It kind of feels like, because there's a train scene also in King Solomon's Mine.
There is.
And it almost feels like they had all these so these movies were filmed in a year back to back.
Yes, yeah. And so this would have been filmed the same year as the sequel to King Solomon's Mines, forgetting its name right now.
Right. So they would have been filming it around the same time. So it almost seems like they have all these assets and like, we got to use it, get our money's worth. And it really feels like they're just recycling a lot of bits. And that's where like a movie really kind of fails for me. And I might have liked this one more, but it doesn't hold up at all.
Yeah, that's my issue. Is like, just, it's weird because you would rip off of you would rip off of something that's like parodying Indiana Jones, right? It's like a derivative of a derivative. Like, it's like just lowering everything again. It's just a little weird. It's a little weird, especially after King Solomon's Mines not being that crazy of a hit, that they would do this again.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess King Solomon's was enough of a hit for them to do a sequel, but it wasn't. It almost feels like, I guess they just had like a bunch of similar ones, or probably Canon just went to like a bunch of screenwriters and said, give me something that's like Indiana Jones. And one guy kind of turned in like a parody, which was King Solomon's Mine. And some guy was like, oh, well, what if we made Indiana Jones like a buddy comedy movie, like a Lethal Weapon type of deal or something?
Yeah. Or even like a Romancing the Stone, right? Kinda.
It kind of feels like Romancing the Stone too. So a couple of like messed up scenes, I thought.
Yeah.
Was really off-putting. So they meet another Native American guy, an elder, and he's in a shack watching TV, and he's watching I Love Lucy, and it's like a scene where Lucy's getting in trouble and Ricky's getting on to her. And she's like, Ricky, and then he shuts off the TV and he said, if that were my woman, I would have cut her nose off. And he's supposed to be a good guy.
Yeah, he's like a good guy. Yeah, he like saves them. This guy being played by Will Sampson, who plays Chief in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. This is like one of his last roles too. But yeah, he said that his whole bit is weird because like
so there's a scene. Yeah. Okay. There's another weird one. Like a Native American woman shows up at Chuck Norris's hotel room, offers him a potion. And he's like, I never turned down a good potion. And then just and chugs it. And of course, and then him and the Native American woman start like making out.
Yeah. And this is in the middle of the movie where like he's supposed to be having a romantic relationship with our leading lady. They have like a thing for like a good chunk of the movie.
Right. So you assume that's going to happen, but that takes like a hard left turn.
Yeah.
And so that, the potion obviously puts Chuck Norris to sleep. The woman shows up, and her and the Native American woman are fighting, and the Native American woman's about to stab her right in the neck, but the chief is doing a chant, which is like a spell that wakes up Louis Gossett Jr., who's asleep in the next room.
Yeah.
Like, he knew Louis Gossett Jr. was asleep, even though they're hundreds of miles away, probably.
Yeah.
Wakes him up, and he knocks out the woman.
It's like this really like just a weird thing. There's even like a weird bit where he's talking and like his face lights up like cinematically, and like everybody else notices it, and they just kind of
don't acknowledge it. Yeah.
I don't understand. What a movie.
Another messed up scene was they go to another seedy bar, and there's like a scene where these two guys take the woman and they just start assaulting her right at the bar. They just start like hugging her and like kissing her, and she's like, get away, and they're like shoving, like making her kiss them and stuff, and Chuck Norris is just watching them do this to her for like way too long. Like because they go over there and they start intimidating her. He's letting it happen, and then they start assaulting her, and then he's like, maybe I should do something about this, and then he lets it happen for like another 30 seconds, and he's like, all right, let me step in here.
All right, this needs to stop now. Now.
So I was like, what the hell? So
yeah. So on the Chuck Norris scale, if this is it, like if this is the Chuck Norris movie I had seen, I would not understand where these memes come from, that he's like an unstoppable force. Like, this is like, he's kind of like goofy in this movie. And I know that's kind of the point, but like his action isn't even that great in this movie when it does pop up.
He does have a couple of fight scenes, and it's very brief. It's like there's maybe a couple of scenes where he actually does his martial arts, but it's very brief and not very there. Imagine this is your very first Chuck Norris movie. I mean, if I watched this and I was like, ugh, like I don't think I ever want to watch one of this guy's movies ever again.
Yeah. Just like imagine like thinking he only does comedy and just being like, damn, this guy's a really bad comedian. he has no line delivery. Sorry, Chuck, if you're listening. But
yeah, he'll be very upset. Another thing I noticed too, this movie has really bad sound mixing.
Oh, I noticed that too. I noticed it especially with Lou Gossett Jr., like in a hotel room scene where the dubbing was just like atrocious in that bit.
It's so bad. There's so many 80-yard lines in this movie. And there's a scene where they're riding horses in the beginning, and it's very clear that Chuck Norris is ADRing because it sounds like he's in a studio versus out, because it goes back and forth too. So
yes, that's what makes it worse.
It sounds like he's outside, and then there's one where it's like crystal clear dialogue, and then there's another scene at the bar where they start like a big fight and they're trying to sneak out. And he's like, come on, guys, let's go. And he's not even moving his lips. You could see like his mouth not even moving.
Yeah. I don't know. Because like I would say they maybe like back in the day you wouldn't have been able to notice that on lower quality. But I mean, we didn't watch it in the best of quality if you watched it on Tubi. So like, I mean, like I feel like it was definitely even noticeable then.
It's passable quality. I mean, but it just... if you're watching it like in a theater, like on the big screen, you would notice.
Yeah, you would. But our opinions are very similar to one of Siskel and Ebert. This is one of their reviews. They reviewed this on their TV show, and they gave it both thumbs down. They hated this movie.
Yeah, it's not a good one, and I personally would not recommend it. It is not very good.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan. Not that I hated it or anything. It has some funny moments, I guess, but I wouldn't recommend you go out and see this now. I totally agree.
It's too long. It's an hour and 45 minutes.
Right.
And And I'm like, this movie could easily shave off 20 to 30 minutes.
Take out the Rhys Davies scene and it'll be much better, because like I don't understand. Take out that 15 minutes gone, right? It just could have been better. It could have been a better movie. Throw in like someone like, I don't know, Richard Chamberlain to be in that role, and I think you got it. I don't know.
So that, yeah, I was going to say that. I mean, I'm glad you said that. I mean, that's the other big thing. Richard Chamberlain is incredibly charming in that movie. He's so charismatic. He's incredibly likable, even though he's saying stuff in there that's kind of really scumbag-ish. Like very nefarious type of stuff he said. It's still like, you're like, oh, you
silly rascal, kind of deal. No, I agree. He's funny. He's like, there's a certain type of person, just like Harrison Ford, that can play these kinds of roles. And I just don't think Chuck Norris has the comedy chops to really be able to play off that sarcastic note. He's better off on doing action.
Absolutely. And we'll probably be talking about an action movie very soon.
Yeah. So we're continuing on with Chuck Norris week. So what is coming up on Thursday, Ryan?
Nathan, it is going to be Invasion USA. And that is also available for free on Tubi.
Thanks, Tubi. Well, I'm excited for that one. If you want to send us an email, if you have anything you want to talk about, Chuck Norris, whatever, send it over to driveanddoublepeaturepodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Also, be sure to follow us on Twitter at DIDFpod, always posting every new episode whenever those come out on there. And yeah, until next time.
Until next time.